Hello, my name's Dave Reay. I'm a Professor of Carbon Management and Education at the University of Edinburgh. And I'm hopefully going to speak very briefly on the subject of climate education. So what is it and what its role is from my point of view? So for me, climate education can be regarded as something really specific, like being a climate change researcher, looking at the attribution of climate change, climate change impacts. So has climate change caused a hurricane, for instance, looking at the climate sensitivity, how much warming we get from CO2. So learning about the science behind that, the physics, the chemistry, the biology of the carbon cycle. That's all climate education, but I think that's too narrow a definition, personally. I think climate education is something which actually, because climate change affects every single person in the world, climate education is relevant to them in terms of awareness of what climate change is. Yes, the risks it poses, but as all of us having a lot vested in the response to climate change, actually what we can do about it as individuals, communities, who we vote for, what we buy. So climate education, I think, is a continuum. And if we think about those specific kind of climate skills that we might have as researchers, actually, when we're looking at the response to climate change in terms of whether it's a heating engineer who's upskilling to learn about heat pumps to decarbonize the kind of energy use in homes, whether it's a civil engineer who's looking at bridge design in terms of coping with sea level rise and more intense weather events. All of that's climate education in terms of where it should be, I guess, embedded in their knowledge. So climate education, I guess, is really, should be global, but obviously very nuanced based on what people need to know. I kind of think climate education is probably the wrong word. It's more systems education. It's systems understanding and thinking, because our climate system needs understanding, but that is part of our societal system, our economy. It's part of, obviously, the interaction with things like the carbon cycle and land use and fossil fuel burning. So it's really, I guess, maybe the best way to teach climate education is actually to talk about that system and to talk about the interrelations of everything in our lives, human beings as part of a global ecosystem, and as part of that, yeah, lots of different ways in which we can not just mitigate emissions, but obviously increase resilience, so adapt to climate change. So yeah, a long-winded explanation, in my view, about what climate change education is. And I guess its role comes back to what I've just said. By improving that understanding, and understanding actually that not everyone needs to know the precise climate sensitivity in terms of how much warming you get from a doubling of CO2. But what everyone does need to know is how their jobs, how their lives will be impacted by climate change. So to understand the importance of it, but also what they can do, whether it's in their work, whether it's what they study, whether it's their interactions with their family and friends, how they travel, how they eat. That's where climate education's role is crucial, because with that knowledge, like we've seen in the last few years, that increased awareness comes action. It comes demand for action through who we elect and our politicians. It comes through what we buy and demand for big companies to change their practices. And it also comes through in terms of our own behaviours. So it's fundamental to tackling climate change, climate education. Yeah, we can't do it without it. Thank you.